We have lived in Portugal for 3 years now, and in this video, we're going to cover the culture shocks that we have experienced.
Some of these differences drive us absolutely nuts, and we know we're not the only ones. But also there's differences that we really love and embrace. Now, before you call us naive Americans, if you followed us for a while, you would know that, first of all, I'm not American.
Yeah, I'm the American. Although I haven't lived in the US for, I don't know, about 8 years now.
Yeah, but you would also know that we absolutely love Portugal. The culture, the food, the people, and almost everything that comes with it.
So yeah, big disclaimer, we mean no disrespect, and this video is just a lighthearted way of us showing the cultural differences that we have observed.
Hi everyone, welcome to our channel Nations Without Borders. My name is Josine.
And I'm Eric, and together with our daughter Nora, we are the Nation family. Before settling in Portugal and starting our family, we had traveled the world as digital nomads for years. On this channel, we talk about all things Portugal, expat life, and traveling as a family. You'll find videos like our reasons for moving to Portugal, cost of living comparisons, and even the perfect 3D itinerary in Lisbon that we refer to all of our family and friends.
Yeah, so if you are thinking about moving to Portugal and you're looking for more information on this topic, make sure you like this video and subscribe to our channel so that new videos of ours will always pop up in your newsfeed.
And make sure you watch to the end because we're going to be discussing some strategies that we use in order to cope and manage with dealing with culture shock. All right, so first item on the list of culture shock for us is general bureaucracy and more paperwork. We've noticed that since moving here, anytime you do any type of interaction with the local municipality or the government, any of those types of processes, there's a lot of bureaucracy involved and a lot of paperwork and just back and forth. So we can give you some examples. One example that we can think of is me going through immigration and getting a residency card. For one thing, the immigration department is just extremely backed up right now through all the immigration that's coming into Portugal. But on top of that, it's just, there's so much back and forth. There's a ton of paperwork that you need to submit. It just takes a very long time to get anything done. Even when my residency card got misplaced, actually stolen, it took over a year just to get a new one. So a lot of the processes here in Portugal remain a little bit old school. Not everything has been digitized yet. And even if it is, a lot of the times it's just a mask. Like a lot of it is still manual. So just be prepared for that.
Yeah, it was the same with opening a bank account here. Like, as an EU citizen, I am allowed to live here, to work here and all the things. So opening a bank account shouldn't be an issue, I thought, but it needed a lot of paperwork. And once we had all of that together, I needed to sign, what, 20 papers, like 20 signatures?
It was a lot of documents. And since we're business owners, they require even more. So for example, they needed a document, a claim just stating that we are the owners of our business. So it was literally just a document where we typed out, we created it. Yes, we are the owners of our business and signed it. So just like bureaucratic documents like that.
Yeah. Another example is the car.
Yeah, so when we bought our car, we did take a loan out from our bank on that, and the amount of paperwork involved in that was insane. And I know it's the same for when you like sign up for a mortgage on a house. But with our car, there was a big contract from the bank for the loan, and there was 3 copies, one for the bank, one for the car, and one for us. And we had to sign and initial every single piece of paper on every single copy. And I was like, you guys, why can't we just digitize this? Like Portugal is one of the top eco-friendly, environment-friendly countries in Europe. He's like, yeah, but we love our paper. So just some things are still old school here and they take a long time. So if you like have a to-do list and you have all these things you're going to get done that day, whether that's dealing with the local municipality or government processes or immigration, just know that it's going to take triple the time that you think it's going to. So you really do have to learn patience here and just learn to embrace it and go with the flow.
That brings us to the second point, pace of life. Everything is just slower here. And the more you fight it, the more frustrated you are. So take it easy, take a step back and accept that everything is just a little bit slower. An example for me personally is punctuality here. I like to be on time, maybe very Dutch, but like you are on time. Don't waste anyone's time, don't waste your own. You're there. Here, people are easily a little later, and it's fine. And everything is just slower, and you have to accept that.
Yeah, like if you're going to like a local Portuguese event or a house party or whatever the case may be, if it starts at 6, that really means it starts at like 7:30
Yeah.
or 8.
I'll be probably the first one at the party at 6.
Yeah, so you just got to learn to go with the flow and be patient. Don't be in a rush to get anything done, because if you do, you're fighting an uphill battle. When we lived in Mexico, I think the saying was mañana, mañana. Like, it's kind of the same thing here. They have Portuguese time. Everything just moves at a slower pace.
A third culture shock that I really experienced here is that most houses don't have central heating. Unless, like,
At least
newly
older
built,
ones.
yeah, newly built houses have central heating, but like older ones, and especially in Lisbon, in the city center, it's not that common that you have central heating or a dryer for that sense. In the Netherlands, I'm used to being in a cold environment, but here not having central heating means that the cold is inside, and outside it might be very nice, but inside it's actually cold. So double layers, electric heaters, all those things. It's a Portuguese thing, maybe it's a Mediterranean thing, I don't know, but it's we are not the only ones who are struggling with the cold winters here.
It's like a different kind of cold. Like the older buildings here have a lot of concrete and stone, and if there's no heating system, it traps all that cold, and it could take a while to let go of it. So a lot of the times during the winter, it's colder in buildings than it is outside. So just something you got to get used to. And we use, in our apartment, we have these like portable electronic heating units, but they also rack up the electricity bill. So the next house that we try and move into, we're going to try and find something that already has central heating in it. All right, in culture shock, item number 4 is healthcare. And I think this is especially a culture shock for me compared to Josine, because she's from the Netherlands, where they also have socialized healthcare. They have that here in Portugal as well. And me coming from the United States, I'm used to the crazy, chaotic system that is the healthcare in the United States, where we have really expensive health insurance. Our employers help us pay for that health insurance. There's often high deductibles, and it's not uncommon that your insurance company will deny your claim, leaving you with a very expensive bill on whatever healthcare service you're receiving. So that is not the case here in Portugal, and it's really a huge weight lifted off of my shoulders, and something I'm not used to where I don't have to worry about receiving like an insane healthcare bill for thousands of dollars, if not even more. So a couple of quick examples. I had to get hip surgery last year, and we even went to a private hospital, and we actually have private health insurance right now because we travel so much, so it's more like a global healthcare plan. So we went to a private hospital, got the hip surgery. We had to pay for it up front, which I was a little bit worried about, and then our health insurance would reimburse us. But even just flat out, just if we were to pay cash, that was $11,000. And it was arthroscopic surgery. I didn't have to stay the night or anything, but even for that in the US, I know that's gonna be, I don't even know how much, but who knows, 40, 50K or more. So, and that's just one example.
Yeah, another example is giving birth. Nora was born here in a private hospital as well. We stayed for 2 nights, both of us, including meals, medicine, and all the things everything went fine. It was a natural birth without complications. But the total bill was 5,500 euros. What is that in dollars? 6K?
Yep.
Yeah, and our insurance covered that as well. But compared to the States, I'm pretty sure that is very affordable.
Also, the health insurance here is much more affordable than in the States, because if you're talking for a family of 4 in the United States, you're paying anywhere between like, who knows, $400, $800 for quality health insurance. And here, our like nomad health insurance that we have is not cheap either. But now that we're not traveling every month of the year, pretty soon here we're going to look at transferring to a Portuguese insurance, and we're going to definitely be saving some money. So if you're someone who has health issues, or you visit the doctor often for whatever the reason is, Portugal is great for healthcare.
All right, culture shock number 5 is that pregnant women get priority everywhere, which I experienced here, and it was beautiful.
Especially at the airport.
Yeah, I'm not saying that in the Netherlands I would not have given priority or anything. I mean, there are very friendly people over there too. But here it's, I would say, top notch. Anywhere there's a queue, as a pregnant woman, you can step out of that queue, walk all the way to the front, and go first. Like supermarkets, museums, lines at the airport.
Even parking spaces in parking lots, they have designated spots for women that are pregnant or with children.
Yeah, so also if you have children, it's not just pregnant women or elderly people, it's also families with young children get priority.
And at the airport, this is amazing.
Yeah, at the airport I saw that at the women's bathroom there was a family bathroom created where you can go in and with your kids, and there's an actual chair for a toddler, there's a chair for a baby that you can strap them in. Yeah, quite unique.
Great job, Portugal, on accommodating families and elderly and pregnant women. All right, so I know the past couple items of Culture Shock have been more positive, which is great, but onto something a little more on the negative side. Culture Shock item number 6, gas prices. And I'll talk about this one specifically because it's more of a difference for me than Josine. But yeah, the gas prices here in Portugal are insane compared to the United States. In Arizona, I get the numbers here. So in Arizona, the average price of a gallon of gas, they go by gallons in the US, is approximately $3.29 as of late March this year. So if you do the math on that, that would be approximately $7.10 per gallon here in Portugal.
It's more than double.
Pretty crazy. And it's just funny to me because I remember when I lived in the States, if gas prices even went up 50 cents or $1, people would freak out. I'm like, and then going back there now, I'm like, you guys have no idea. You have it so good with your cheap gas prices. Luckily, we're fortunate that we don't have to commute to a job here. We both work from home. So it doesn't affect us as much, but so we don't do a ton of driving, which is great. The only reason we even bought a car is because we had a baby. But before that, we lived near the center of Lisbon, so we didn't really need a car, so we just used public transport. And Lisbon is great for that. Porto also has great public transportation. Yeah. But if you have a car here and you're driving a lot, you're going to pay the price. And in the Netherlands, it's even more expensive. I did the math on that, and for the Netherlands, it would cost $8.53 USD for a gallon. So yeah, over here in Europe, gas is just more expensive.
All right, culture shock number 7 is soup in Portugal. Portugal is a big soup country, and it reflects, for example, at school. Nora is going to daycare and she gets lunch there, and it's soup every day. Different soup, a chicken soup, or vegetable soup, or name it, but it's soup every day for lunch. Yeah, I don't know where that comes from or why soup is such a big item on the menus here, but yeah, soup is a big thing. If you know why soup is such a popular thing here in Portugal, please let us know in the comments. I have seriously no idea and I'd like to know. Culture shock number 8 on our list is the price of certain electronics, imported electronics in cars. Not all imported goods or electronics are more expensive, but there are specific brands or products that are pricier than what you're used to. For example, an iPhone.
Yeah, so for example, Apple products. Whether you're buying a MacBook or an iPhone, expect to pay a lot more in Portugal than you would in the US. To give you an example, let's take the iPhone Pro, the 16 model with the gigabytes of 128. I got the numbers here in front of me. In the US, that would cost $999 USD before tax, and after tax, that would be $1,081. In Portugal, the same iPhone 16 would cost 1,249 euros. That comes out to $1,367. Now that does include tax because they include it on the price that you see on the shelf. And that's a difference of $285. So if you're planning on getting a new iPhone or a new MacBook, I would plan on getting that in the States when you go and visit home. Is it also the same for the Netherlands?
Yeah, it's pricier there too. Yeah.
So, all right. The next item that we wanted to compare, just because cars as well, we bought a new car last year and we noticed that, it was more expensive. We're going to compare a car that is common in Portugal and the United States. Let's do the Toyota Corolla. We're going to compare the 2025, so brand new model. According to the Toyota Corolla website, this is starting at $22,325. Plus, if you do in Arizona, you're probably looking at a tax of around 6%. So That's $1,339 in tax for a total of $23,664. Now in Portugal, this car starts at 32,270 euros, which converts over to $35,317. However, that amount that they advertise on the website in Europe, again, this includes tax, the IVA, but if you do the math, that is a difference of $11,653. So quite the difference. And even the used car market in Portugal is more expensive. Yeah, if you're thinking about buying a relatively newer model, sometimes it's better to just buy the new car because the used car market is so expensive. And the reason cars are more expensive, there's a lot of reasons. We're not going to go into all of them, but in general, the overarching word is tax. Portugal loves their taxes, and that's just something you have to deal with living here.
Yeah, that's not something like buy a car in the US and ship it over. That's not going to be cheaper. And now that we're talking about cars, our next point or next culture shock is car sizes here in Portugal. Now this is more of a culture shock for you than for me, because in the Netherlands we have small cars too. I think we can better say, like in the US, the cars are just bigger than anywhere else in the world. But yeah, here you mainly see small cars in the streets, small parking spots, smaller streets. So yeah, it makes sense.
And that's just because in the United States, obviously it's such a massive country. We have so much space compared to Europe. Europe is very condensed in all the cities, so there's just not as much space. Hence the smaller cars, more practical. Yeah, I almost make a game out of it. Anytime I see a truck here in Lisbon or in Portugal, I'm like, oh, look, there's a truck. Just because it's so rare to see that. And then whenever I go back to the US, I get reverse culture shock. And I'm like, holy, there's so many massive vehicles everywhere. It's just such a contrast. It's just a fun thing to observe.
Yeah. It's also mainly small streets here in the cities. The cities are very old, so the streets are just smaller. So there isn't even space to have like a big truck here.
We have like a mini SUV, a Peugeot 2008, and it's not even a big SUV. And even with that car, I struggle to get through spaces sometimes.
You should see our parking garage, actually. That's a nightmare to get in and out. He is very skilled by now. I haven't even tried. I don't even want to try. It's that small.
It's not easy. Yeah, that brings us up to our next point, which is less space.
Yeah, smaller spaces. Apartments in the city center they tend to be smaller. I'm used to that too, because Amsterdam is also a very small or old city with smaller apartments, smaller spaces, and you have to be creative if you're living in a small apartment. So I'm kind of used to that. But compared to the States.
Yeah, like I grew up in Phoenix, but I grew up in the suburbs. Like I wasn't in the heart of the city. So I'm used to like growing up in a neighborhood where it's all detached homes. Each home has their own big front garden, back garden, big carport. And when I was traveling around the world with Remote Year, and it was a very diverse group of people all over the world. It's just that's not a common thing in a lot of countries, you know? So yeah, definitely a change here, especially being in the city of Lisbon, where it's mostly apartments and condominiums. Now, once you get out to the outskirts of cities in Portugal, of course, you're gonna find houses with big gardens and garages and driveways. So it's almost just a contrast and cultural difference of living in the city rather than in the burbs. But in general, yeah, there's just less space because everything is so densely populated here. Culture shock item number 11, and that is safety. This is also another positive culture shock that we noticed living here. And one of the reasons we actually chose Portugal is it ranks in the top 5 safest countries in the world. And that's a stark contrast from coming from the US, where we have lots of gun violence and school shootings. Here, it's just, you don't even need to worry about that. And it's also just such a huge weight off the shoulders, because you know that, you know, like for us, we have a family and we're a growing family. And one day when our kids, you know, get into school, it's just not something that we even have to worry about that. And whenever I go back to the States, and I read the news about the school shootings or people involved, it's just such a tragedy. And that's just something that we don't have to worry about here. And it's amazing.
It's not that there's no crime at all. There's definitely pickpocketers and all the things you normally have in any city in the world, I would say.
It's more like petty theft.
Yeah.
But yeah, not a lot of aggressive violence here.
But this is actually me having a culture shock in the States, that it happened to me there once, that I received text messages from, I don't know who sent that.
It's like an amber alert.
Yeah, but then a silver alert and a blue alert. And I'm like, what is this all? What does it mean? A blue alert basically means that someone shot at the police in your neighborhood or in your area. And that was shocking to me.
And when she got that, we weren't even in a bad neighborhood. We were in a good neighborhood.
So yeah, that definitely, I'm always more culture shocked when I'm going to the States, but that is a major difference between here in Portugal and the US.
Speaking of reverse culture shock, when we went to the States not too long ago, we went to the grocery store and we went on a motorcycle. And funny going to the grocery store on a motorcycle. But anyways, we went to a particular grocery store in not the best neighborhood, but I didn't trust my motorcycle out there, like being alone. So I told Josina, I'm like, stay by the motorcycle, keep a watch, and if any homeless people or anyone sketchy comes and talk to you, just ignore them or text me.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, oh man, I don't even have to worry about this when I'm in Portugal. It's like I don't even notice when I go back to where I'm from in the US. It's just I'm always like more on guard, and something I don't even realize.
Funny thing, in that moment when I was waiting there with the motorcycle, someone did come up to me. It was not a sketchy person, it was a kid. It was a young boy of like maybe 10 years old, asking if he could use my phone to call his sister to come pick him up. Now, my phone wasn't working at the time because I had a Dutch SIM card. It didn't work. It didn't matter. So I said, like, I do have a phone, but you can't call with that. Why don't you go into the store and ask for a phone over there? And he didn't. He just walked back to the crossing, and there was a friend of his, and he was just hanging there. So that was definitely not to call his sister.
Yeah. So yeah, it's life is just, it's a lot lighter here. Like you just don't have to be constantly watching over your shoulder or being on guard. It's just more chill.
Culture shock number 12. The food. It's not that I don't like the Portuguese food, but there's a couple of items that I don't like. I absolutely love the seafood. If you are a seafood lover, come to Portugal, please, because it's the best. But there's a couple of items, like a lot of oil and a lot of salt on vegetables. And vegetables, I feel like, is not a big thing on the menu in Portugal. It's mainly fish, meat, potatoes.
It comes with salad or vegetables.
Yes, but it can be more for me.
Yeah. So this is actually where Josine and I differ. I love Portuguese food. I like the simplicity of it and how healthy it is, because you usually, you get your protein, choose a steak, chicken, pork, whatever the case may be, and then you get your side of batatas fritas, which is French fries or rice, and then your salad or whatever the case may be. That is a very much simplified way of saying traditional Portuguese cuisine, but there's a lot. And if you're in Lisbon, it's a very international foodie city. So there's plenty of food options here. Lisbon, Porto, what's the famous dish in the Francesinha?
Francesinha in the north, yeah.
Do you like the Francesinha?
No. It's so unhealthy. I can't.
Yeah, it's a calorie. It's like a ton of calories, but it's delicious.
It's very tasty. Yes, it's very tasty. It's very delicious.
Why don't you tell them what's in it?
Oh, it's a sandwich layered with cheese and meat and egg, and then there's a sauce on top of it. It's a whole thing. It's like a whole meal.
Yeah.
But after eating it, I feel very unhealthy.
But most Portuguese food, I would say, is healthy. Some of it can be pretty heavy, like some of the stews and whatnot, but I don't know. I love Portuguese food. It's delicious. One thing I will say is there's more variety, I feel like, in the States. Like here in Lisbon, for example, like Mexican food. Mexican food's hard to compare because Arizona is right next to Mexico and we have some of the best Mexican food ever, but this is true throughout all of Europe. It's hard to find like a really good, authentic Mexican place where you can just get some like Mexican street tacos. So there's certain things like that, but yeah, the food. And here's one other thing we forgot to talk about, and that is the quality of food. And this is also true through a lot of Europe, is just there's tighter restrictions and regulations on food quality here in agriculture within Europe and Portugal. So you're getting better quality ingredients with less additives, less preservatives, less chemicals. So the food here in Portugal is also, I think, of a higher quality and healthier for you. When I go back to the US, the first week I'm there, it's always like a gut bomb.
Yeah. Good example also is when your mom came to visit. Your mom has a couple of allergies and food items that she tries to stay away from because she starts coughing or have an allergic reaction to it. When she was eating them here by accident, nothing happened.
Yeah, she was able to eat a lot of things here she couldn't eat back in the States. So that was kind of like proof to me. I'm like, okay, so it is actually true. Like there's lots of things in the American food system that just are not in European products because of regulations and things like that. So yeah, that's also a huge benefit. All right, and piggybacking off of food, this brings us to our next culture shock item number 13, and that is meal times, the time at which people eat dinner or lunch here.
Yeah, in the States and in the Netherlands, it's very common to have dinner between 6-7:30-ish. Here it's a little later. Around 9 is very normal.
8, 9.
Yeah, so I've had a couple of times that we went out for dinner. We didn't make any reservations and we get there at 7 p.m. for example, and we're asking like, hey, do you have a table available for 2? And I see an empty space in front of me, but all tables have a reserved sign. And she indeed tells me like, no, we don't have any tables, everything is booked. Okay. And in that moment I asked like, okay, for what time are these tables reserved? And the answer at that moment was like, yeah, around 9. Like, okay, but then the coming 2 hours, we can have a seat, right? And then she did the math and was like, okay, yeah, sure, but you have to be gone at 9 when the people are coming. And it's totally fine. We don't spend 2 hours for dinner.
It's totally normal. Like the table reservation practices here in Portugal are pretty inefficient in our opinion.
Not everywhere, but there's
not everywhere, but there's like lots of restaurants where they'll leave like an hour and a half, 2 hour gap, and they'll leave a table empty just because I think their reasoning or logic is like, well, if someone comes 2 hours earlier, they can't guarantee that that other table is going to leave or whatever. They have to make sure the next people get the table at the designated time. But yeah, people generally do take longer to finish their meals here, and that's perfectly fine. I think it's great to spend as much time as you want handling your meal, but like, yeah, it doesn't mean you don't need to leave the table empty when your restaurant could be making more money, for example. So there's been lots of times where we like just question them, like, all right, we see that table is empty over there, like, and oftentimes even if it's like an hour and a half, like we're like, all right, well, we can finish dinner in an hour and a half, and then we'll end up getting a table. So also for lunch, a lot of small businesses will close down for lunch for between like 1 and 3. I know that's not common in the States. Usually businesses will not close for lunch. They just stay open, and then some employees get lunch breaks. But I think for smaller businesses here where there's only probably 1 or 2 people manning the station or whatever the business is, yeah, they just close down. So there's been multiple times where we go somewhere and they were closed for lunchtime. And we're like, damn it, we forgot. All right, the next culture shock item is customer service and the differences in customer service. Coming from the United States, the customer service there is just really exceptional compared to other countries that I've been to, and I've traveled, upwards of 27, 28 countries now in Europe and South America, all over. And whenever I go back home, I'm very pleased and happy with the level of customer service I get from the States, whether that's in a restaurant or a retail store. And that's just not the same culture here in Portugal. So if you are coming here from the States, whether you're on vacation or moving here, just know that to have the right expectations that you are not going to receive the same friendliness and openness in restaurants or retail stores here. Now, I'm not saying that that's going to be the case for every restaurant you go to here in Portugal, or retail stores for that matter. If they're on the more upscale level, I guess you could say, or nicer and just more pricey, then yeah, you do tend to get also really amazing customer service here. But in general, on average, yeah, and a lot of that has to do with tipping, because in the United States, waiters and servers at restaurants rely on tips to get the full salary that they get. So they are incentivized in the United States to give you exceptional customer service and smile and refill your water and do all those things that you're used to. So it's just, a different culture.
And that brings us to the next culture shock and the last one on our list. The tipping culture in Portugal versus anywhere else, or in this case, the US. Here in Portugal, it's not like mandatory to tip on everything you buy in restaurants and stuff. Like in the US, I know that if you don't tip, you get some angry faces from waiters. It's not a good thing. Here, if you don't tip, it's not like a signal of like the service was bad. It's just people are getting paid
a regular wage.
Yeah. Now I'm not saying do not tip. If you get like a good service, tip. It's very normal. but it's not like a stress factor with, oh, am I doing the right thing here? Am I tipping enough?
Yeah, like
Can relax.
for example, we went out to a nice dinner the other night, and it wasn't like a super fancy restaurant or anything, but it was like a fado dinner, and I forget what the bill is. Let's just say it was around 83 euros or something. Like, I thought they did exceptionally well at the service, so I just rounded up to 90. I'm not trying to like calculate 10%, 15%, or any of that. Like, if you give anything extra, they're usually very appreciative. But yeah, if you're going out to a very average, middle of the road restaurant here, they don't expect you to tip. And actually, in fact, the local Portuguese don't like it when foreigners bring their tipping culture here. So if you're coming from the US, do not tip everywhere you go, because then that changes the expectations of the people running the restaurant, and then they start to expect tips from everyone else, which is not good for the local economy and Portuguese people. So definitely be aware of that when you come here. Like, don't tip everywhere. Only tip if you're at like a nicer restaurant or they did exceptionally well. They went above and beyond. That was a hard thing for me to break actually when we came here, because I wanted to tip everywhere we get.
Yes.
I'm like, all right, at least let me give 15%, because in the US the standard right now is 20% or 25%. And even if you're going to like a Starbucks in the US, and you're swiping your debit card and you don't get anything brought to you, you just literally are waiting for them to like put your coffee at the front, they still ask you, do you want to add a tip? And it's like, for what? You didn't do anything. So here it was hard for me to break that habit in the beginning, but luckily I'm married to a Dutch person. And she was like, stop tipping everywhere. You don't need to do it.
Oh, stop tipping so much. It's insane.
Yeah, so that's a benefit to living in Portugal, is that, if you're an American coming here, you'll save money on tipping, which is quite nice. All right, so there you have it. Those are the 15 culture shocks that we have noticed in Portugal over the past 3 years of living here as an American and Dutch couple. Now, just keep in mind, those are only 15. There are a ton more, which we maybe go over in other videos. But now let's transition to some strategies and practices that you can implement in order to help cope and manage culture shock when living in a new country.
Yeah. No, it's good to remember that these culture shocks happen. It's very normal that when you're moving to a new place, that there's differences and you're gonna run into those. So I would say the first strategy is just accepting that things are a little bit different, and don't stress too much if things go in a different way.
Being patient and open-minded is absolutely essential, because especially in Portugal, like we said, things move a little bit slower here. There's bureaucracy, so you just have to be really patient with the processes around you and the culture, but also with yourself. You just moved to a new country, and in the beginning, you're not going to notice it as much, but give yourself 6 months or however long, and you'll start to notice things that get on your nerves. But you just have to remember to be open-minded. Remember that you're in a new country. You're the one that chose to live here, so embrace all these differences and learn how to manage and cope with it.
A good second tip here is talk about it with fellow expats or foreigners that you've met here. Like, hey, this and this happened. Is that normal? Most likely they're gonna say like, oh yeah, that's very normal. We've been there, done that. Or like, we had to go through that process too, or we had that as well. Like, and that makes it easier to cope with the differences too. Like, oh, I'm not alone. This is normal. Yeah. Talk about it with other people. It will make it a lot easier to deal with. And
a major one is actually making an effort to learn the local language.
Yes.
As someone who's moving to a new country, it is your responsibility, and you should make an effort to learn the language, but doing that is just going to drop so many obstacles and barriers. Once you can start learning the language and getting better at Portuguese, you're going to be easier to integrate and understand why things the way they are, and it'll just make your life a lot easier. So we're not fluent in Portuguese by any means, but we are learning. It's a slow process because we have everything else going on in life, but
it's a difficult language.
It's not as easy as Spanish per se, at least not in our opinion. So learning the language will make a huge difference, so make sure you do that. We use PortugueseWithCarla.com. It's an online program, and it's absolutely amazing. Highly recommend. So we'll leave a link in the description for that. Ultimately, experiencing different cultures is extremely rewarding. We've lived in various countries around our travel, some short-term, some long-term. We lived in Mexico for a couple years, and even Mexico has extremely different culture from Portugal. So by putting yourself in a new situation and living in a new country, you are broadening your perspectives, and you get to appreciate the different diversities from where you come from in where you're living now. So just embrace it and learn everything you can about that culture. All right, so let us know in the comments below if you yourself have experienced any of these culture shocks, or if you think there's some that we left out, any that are funny or interesting. Drop a comment down below. Also, if you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask. We're very responsive in the comments.
If you've enjoyed this video, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to our channel. Side note, we're almost at 1,000 subscribers, so if you can do us a favor, subscribe to our channel and get us to that 1,000 followers, because that would be amazing, and it helps us so much to grow this channel and bring more videos about moving to Portugal, more culture shocks, and all the differences that we experience here as an international family in Portugal.
Yeah, so if you made it this far, thank you for watching. We appreciate you, and we'll see you next week for a new video.
Yes. All right.
Adio. Bye. Ciao.
Bye-bye.